Neighbors laughed when a widow dug a tunnel under her cabin, until it saved her boys in the blizzard. The first time Eleanor Graves lifted a shovel to the frozen earth beneath her cabin, the sound carried across the valley like a challenge. It was late autumn, the kind that smells of iron and wood smoke, and her neighbors paused in their chores to stare. A widow digging under her own floorboards was a sight worth whispering about. By dusk, the whispers had turned to laughter. Eleanor heard it all. She always did. Her husband, Thomas, had died the previous winter when a sudden whiteout swallowed the road and never gave him back. Since then, Eleanor had learned to live with echoes, of boots that no longer crossed the threshold, of laughter that used to warm the room. What remained were her two boys, Samuel and Noah, thin as saplings but rooted deep in her heart. They were all she had, and she would not lose them to the cold. The cabin sat alone at the edge of the plains, where storms arrived without apology. The old stone fireplace did its best, but the wind found every crack. Eleanor remembered Thomas once saying, half joking, "This land doesn't forgive the careless." She took that as instruction. So she dug. The idea came to her on a night when the boys slept fitfully, breath puffing like ghosts in the dark. She imagined warmth that couldn't be stolen by wind. Earth's steady embrace, the way cellars stayed cool in summer and warmer in winter. A tunnel, she thought. A place beneath the cabin where heat could be kept, where the boys could be sheltered if the storm came with teeth. The neighbors scoffed. Digging a grave for herself, someone muttered. Should have asked for help, another said, not offering any. Eleanor kept her head down and her hands blistered. She worked between washing clothes and mending boots, between telling the boys stories and listening to the wind practice its howl. By December, the tunnel was finished, a narrow passage reinforced with scavenged timber, leading to a small chamber lined with stones. At its heart sat a fire pit ringed with river rocks, vented carefully through a hidden flue. It wasn't pretty. It was safe. The blizzard came 3 days before Christmas. It arrived without warning, a wall of white that erased the horizon and smothered sound. By nightfall, the wind screamed like a living thing, rattling the cabin as if testing its resolve. Eleanor fed the fire until the wood was gone, then fed it with fear and prayer. When the chimney began to choke and the door bowed inward under the snow's weight, she made her choice. "Boys," she said, steady as she could manage, "we're going to our special place." Samuel clutched her skirt. Noah's eyes were wide, reflecting firelight. They trusted her because they had to. They descended into the earth as the storm roared overhead. Eleanor sealed the hatch, and the world narrowed to the warm circle of stone and flame. The fire pit breathed gently, the tunnel holding heat like a secret. The boys pressed close, their shivers easing. Eleanor sang to them, a song Thomas used to hum, until sleep finally claimed them. Above them, the blizzard did its worst. Morning never came. Not the way it should. Hours blurred into a gray hush. Snow piled and packed, crushing the cabin's roof, sealing doors and windows. When the storm finally tired of itself 2 days later, it left a silence so deep it felt like mercy. Neighbors ventured out, counting losses. They found Eleanor's cabin half buried, roof caved in. Someone crossed themselves. Someone else said, quietly, "Those poor boys." Then they heard a knock. Faint. From the ground. Shovels flew. Hands numbed and bled. And when they broke through the floorboards, they found Eleanor climbing up, soot-smudged and fierce, with Samuel and Noah blinking in the pale light like seeds breaking soil. No one laughed then. The days that followed were a blur of casseroles and apologies. The neighbors helped rebuild the cabin stronger than before, adding stone and sealing cracks. They asked Eleanor about the tunnel, about the fire pit, about how she'd known. "I didn't," she said. "I just loved them more than I feared the work." That winter changed the valley. People checked on each other before storms. They shared wood and warnings. And beneath Eleanor's cabin, the tunnel remained, not as a monument to stubbornness, but as proof of what care could carve from even the hardest ground. Years later, when Samuel and Noah were grown and the storm still came, Eleanor would sit by the fire and smile. The earth had held them once. And the world, she hoped, had learned to do the same. Because sometimes, the thing people laugh at is the very thing that saves us, and love, when it digs deep enough, always finds a way to keep the cold out.